The Monkey Island series is odd on its own. It features many odd concepts, many odd ideas, many odd characters, and the oddest game of them all is, without a doubt, Monkey Island 2. Why would I say that? Well, several reasons. It is the only one to have a number in its name. All the other ones are something of Monkey Island, or at the very least, from a Monkey Island. None of them have a number. None of them are billed as a sequel, but this one is. This isn't Escape from Monkey Island, this is not Tales of Monkey Island, this is not The Curse of Monkey Island. This is Monkey Island 2: LeChuck's Revenge. And yet, even though it is a sequel, it is the one that behaves the least like a sequel. And it also sold the least in the entire series. Now, when I say that it behaves the least as a sequel, think about how a sequel is made, especially how a sequel made just 1 month after the development of the first one is made. You jump right into it and basically do the exact same thing, but with a new setting, some new lines of dialogue, a couple of new characters, let's say a different story, and everything else is the same. That's how a sequel usually gets made, and it's not necessarily a bad idea. Fallout 2 was that, and Fallout 2 is one of the best games ever made. But Monkey Island 2 didn't do that. The first Monkey Island was a parody of the adventure game genre first and foremost. And it featured its own unique ideas. It had things like insult sword fighting. But the second one, although it has plenty of callouts to the first game, and it's still in a sort of a universe that is aware that it exists as a game, is more of an adventure game in its own right than it is a parody of the genre. It is still self-aware, but it doesn't go that extra mile that the first one went. Instead, it goes several miles deep underground, where it bubbles in the magma layer of the earth, and then comes roaring out as, well, as Monkey Island 2, a game that, although uses the same characters, the same basic setup as the first one, you can't call it a rehash of the first one. It tries so much to be original. It even gave Guybrush a beard to make him look cooler, and he is more competent in this one. He would be, wouldn't he? He just defeated the ghost pirate LeChuck, a story that he tells to everybody to the point where everybody wants him to shut up. And he often says that people wouldn't know a good story if they paid $60 for it, which may be a jab at the fact that when it was released, Monkey Island 1, The Secret of Monkey Island, did not have maybe the best reception in terms of sales a game could ever have, and you'll actually find peppered out through the game all sorts of dialogue lines that seem to be describing Ron Gilbert more than Guybrush, or the game more than a situation that's in the game. There's still that meta aspect of it, just as the original one had, but it tries a bit harder to be its own game, to the point where it removes insult sword fighting. Now, insult sword fighting is synonymous with Monkey Island. It is something that you would find in just about every other game in the series, or at least a variant of it. They all had a gimmick like that. Not this one. Monkey Island 2 didn't. It was not a rehash of an idea. It was not trying to just redo what worked, what was popular, to be the same thing again. No, it tried to do something different. And one way it did it is the way in which you explore the environment. After you were done with your initial, let's say, adjustment to the game by exploring Scab Island, you are now able to traverse between 2 other islands and come back to the first one, where you would find new things to do as you explored and tried to uncover the secret of the mysterious, the mythical, the unknown treasure of Big Whoop. Whereas in Monkey Island 1, you would just explore one island and then another one. Here you got to choose in which way you would want to navigate through your surroundings. You would sail from place to place and do things involving sending people to jail sometimes, because Guybrush Threepwood is kind of a bastard. Well, he is a pirate, why wouldn't he be a bastard? They all are. And one other major change that the game made was, well, honestly, one that may be a bit polarizing and not all that great. It features a Monkey Island 2 light mode, which is, as the game calls it, a game mode designed for video game reviewers. In this mode you have fewer puzzles, and the ones that exist are somewhat easier to complete or even complete themselves automatically. This is a mode that, although can be very useful to people that are just getting into the genre because it simplifies some of the challenge of the game, it is never a substitute for the full experience of Monkey Island 2, because the game as it was designed in its full version is complete. Whenever you take something out of it, you take something out of all of it. If you remove a puzzle, if you remove a way in which a puzzle is completed, you remove the context for its joke, and so you remove the joke itself. Some would say that Monkey Island's puzzles are just an excuse to create funny situations, and they're not wrong. And the light version of it compromises the humor by removing some of those funny situations. You no longer have reasons to do some stupid things, and thusly you are robbed of the full experience of the game. I know it can be a bit frustrating to play a game that tends to sometimes be a bit out there in terms of the logic of its puzzles, but figuring them out was rewarding unto itself, with the humor it had, with the inevitable crazy consequences. The light version just takes away from that. Though at the same time, you kind of have to appreciate what they did. Essentially, it is two games in one. Although another way this could have been done is by implementing multiple solutions to each puzzle, or at least to most of them, with one of them being a bit more straightforward, another one being a bit crazy. This way it will also fit in with the dialogue, where you can say things that are reasonable and then just tell characters, oh hi, we met in the previous game. But that's not something that adventure games really do, mostly because making multiple solutions for puzzles tends to be a bit tricky and take a lot of time. Though to be fair, the puzzles in Monkey Island are great. I mean, the entire series, for the most part, has puzzles that will reward you if you finish them. Whereas some games will use the tired old use a penny as a screwdriver to open a vent grate, or slide a paper under the door to knock the key on the paper so you can open the door, and then have nothing to show for it in terms of, payoff. It's just something you've seen a billion times before, done again and again and again. Monkey Island has you nail somebody into a coffin. To be fair, it's Stan, he kinda deserves it. He didn't sell necessarily the best ships ever made. What I'm saying, it never gets boring. It never gets stale. It is always entertaining and weird. Monkey Island 2 is by far the weirdest of the bunch. It is so weird that not only does it make references to the first game as though it were a game, but when things happen that flash back in a way or another to the first game, it does so with the first game's graphics, presented alongside the graphics of the current game. And that's not even the weirdest part. No, the weirdest part is at the end. Monkey Island was the brainchild of Ron Gilbert. He had an idea for it, a direction for it. He had an answer to exactly what is the secret of Monkey Island, and not just the one that he made up and told to others that then may have or may not have ended up in some of the games later on. He had an answer for what happens at the end of this game, because at the end of this game, spoilers for a game that was released 27 years ago, you wind up in an amusement park with Guybrush just being a kid, with LeChuck being his brother, with his parents there, and realizing it was all just a fantasy. But was it? Because Chucky turns a bit voodoo-ish at the end. It leaves you with a mystery that's never been resolved, that may never be resolved, because Ron will probably not get Monkey Island back from Disney. Nobody gets stuff back from Disney. The public domain is knocking at its doors, and has been for decades, to get stuff back. Won't happen. And not just because he wants to still own his properties once he is revived from his cryogenic slumber. If you believe the conspiracy theories, I mean. They're not real. Or are they? That also technically makes Monkey Island 2 the last canonical Monkey Island game. There's 5 games in the series. Well, technically there's 6 with a phantom 5th. but none of them are Ron Gilbert's vision. Sure, he had some input on them, but they're not the games that he made, that he wrote, that he envisioned. But Monkey Island 2 is, and you can see it. You can see that he had an idea, because it's not just the first one again. I know I've repeated this time and time again, but it is worth saying. Most of the Monkey Island games are the first one in some form or another again, often with bits from the second one as well. But in that process of being parts of something else, they lose a bit of originality. And if it wasn't for the later ones using vastly varied and different graphic styles, they would have honestly very little identity of their own. But we will get to those in the next couple of weeks. For me, Monkey Island 2 is the best of the bunch. It felt the most as its own adventure game, with wit, with character, with superb location, with an eerie atmosphere even in certain places like the graveyard. And the soundtrack was phenomenal. Even just the old MIDI one, the one that you hear most commonly, without having to shell out for CD versions or something else. The one that's built in, the one powered by the iMuse system, is absolutely exquisite. It's a system that they couldn't even replicate for the re-release version when they remade the game in 2010, I believe, or 2011, because the system was built from the ground up to work with different types of instruments in MIDI format, where the game would just switch between instruments as you move from location to location, creating one continuous song that just blended into itself in different variants and different tonalities until it became a different song. But you would be hard-pressed to notice an abrupt, sudden change. Everything was smooth as the graphics were back in the day. I know it may not look like it's exquisite by today's standards, but even when I played it, it wasn't all that long ago. It was 2005 or 2004 at the earliest. It still looked great. A bit cluttered in places, especially because you have to do some pixel hunting from time to time, but it was still beautiful. Beautiful in that pixelated, MIDI-drenched, old LucasArts style. There is beauty there. A beauty that you too can appreciate if you want to play the game again. The enhanced version, which does still include the original with voice or without voice, depending on your choice. New graphics, old graphics, sadly only the new music, is available on GOG right now on sale for the price of €2 and 80 euro cents, down from 8 and a bit. Actually, the whole series is just 9.77 euros, which is around, I don't know, 12 bucks, I guess. So go play it. You will never regret this deeper dive into Monkey Island, into what it means, into its world, into its characters, into its themes. You will not regret playing a game that I personally believe outshines the first one. And mind you, the first one was perfect. Goodbye.